Well, hey, welcome everybody. It is good to be with you. I'm Walt, this is Megan, and we're here with one of my favorite pastors, favorite specimens, Pastor John Murray. We are working on being healthy together. And this week, our weekly emphasis is on the body. We've been looking at the mind last week. We're looking at the body this week. We'll continue to press into that in the weeks to come. But today, we're trying to figure out how is our body and our spirituality connected.
Yeah, Walt, when you and I were talking sort of about healthy together, and we both really enjoy like working out and things like that. And so this week was the one that we were most excited about talking through with people. But I don't know that it's because we're like fitness fanatics, but I think that it's more that we've grown in our understanding of how our bodies actually communicate things about God to us. There's like a really profound text that I had to read in like a pastoral care and counseling class called The Body Keeps the Score, that really just like talks about how our bodies carry memory. And you see in scripture, like so many ways that there's body imagery used to help communicate a spiritual truth. But I don't know. And like, John, that's part of why we wanted to invite you into this too. Like, I don't know that we've always started from that place of understanding that our bodies could help tell us something about God. So I guess like to both of you, how do you like understand? How have you understood how your bodies tell you something about God? Or like, where were you? Do you know that like meme that's going around, like how it started, how it's going?
How it's going. Yeah.
So this is like your glow up of how you've understood your body.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the big themes of this whole kind of month is trying to take things that have been kind of like often like compartmentalized and shunted around and try to help them become like more integrated. And I think like a lot of people, men and women, my relationship with my body has just been like different and complicated at times. I was growing up kind of like always like a smaller kid, and so like got kind of like pushed around a little bit, nothing crazy, but just made me feel like kind of like insecure in myself. And my freshman year of high school, I started wrestling, and I only wrestled one season. I lost every single match by pin, so that was a little humiliating, but we were working out a lot, we were lifting weights, and I started taking on a physique that was like, oh, this is like new and kind of like interesting. And so that kind of put me on this track of like, okay, I can actually have, even though like as long as I'm not in a wrestling match, at least I could, be at least appear a little more fit. And so that's often just how I thought about it. It was like, it was very like performative. It was just kind of about, kind of posturing, kind of, I went to an all guys high school, right? So that's kind of just what we were into. I think I felt like when I got into my adult life, I realized that I feel things like bodily before I can articulate like what's going on. So if I'm in like a stressful conversation, like I'll just get like really tight and tense. If I'm like afraid by something, right? If I feel like I'm entering a conflict, I might even start like kind of like trembling a little bit. And I'll know like if there's just like a lot like going on in my life, like I'll be driving and I'll just start like like I've got like these like huge like kind of like heaving sighs. And I'm an Enneagram 9, and so that's kind of like how we kind of experience things. And it just started kind of like clicking with me, like my body is trying to like tell me something, about it. So it was like a little like Lassie, right? Like it's like barking, it's like, what, Timmy's like in the well, right? Like my body's like trying to get my attention about what's going on in my world. But I didn't have like a way to really kind of like understand how my body was informing on my mental state, on my spiritual state. And so it was just a lot of kind of like either, okay, my body's here to like either help me look good or perform in sports or, whatever, or it's like kind of like this flashing warning sign that I don't know how to interpret. So that was like a lot of kind of my kind of earlier experiences with it. Love to hear what you think, John.
Well, some similarities. I mean, if we're talking Enneagram, I'm a 7. sevens try to avoid pain. Um, but even more than that, we were looking for freedom and joy. And I found a lot of that came physically. I did start off with sports. Sports were not valued in my family, but I really started to enjoy it, especially with track and karate and a couple other things like that. I think one early experience was just seeing how my dad's body limited him in so many ways. He had lingering injuries from many years of high school and college basketball, and his knees limited him in so many ways. And I didn't want that for me. And then I remember one time being in high school and I seeing this guy. I think he must have been in his 60s or 70s. He had his shirt off and he's playing ultimate frisbee with all these young guys, and he was the most ripped dude out there. And I thought, that can be a much better outcome that I would love to have than where my dad's life seemed to lead. So I really wanted that and emphasized that. But then something happened along the way, and that is, like, I kind of always grew up feeling somewhat ugly. And when I started to get into lifting for swimming, I put on in my freshman year of high school, freshman year of college, everyone seems to put on weight. I put on about 30 pounds in the first half of my freshman year from lifting and swimming. And it looked good and it felt good. And I liked the feedback that I was getting. So it's the running and everything else started to drop off, and it was just about lifting. In fact, the more that running cut my weight, the less I wanted to do it. And for a while, it just became about appearance. I wanted to really look good. To me, that was kind of the key to feeling good. It's much different now. I'm much more into the experiencing the outdoors, and like you said, body being kind of a signal to things going on inside. I found more than it being a signal to what's going on inside, I feel like for me, it's a window to access what's going on inside or make something happen inside. I find that for me, prayer is best when I'm in motion. Maybe that's a side effect of being perpetually ADHD or something like that. It's like running is almost like a noisemaker to quiet all the other noises, all the other voices that are in my head, so I can hear that deep inner voice or hear the voice of God in my life. I notice that my son is sometimes the same way. I'll try to get him in a conversation about, I can see what's going on in his life, but he doesn't want to talk about it. And we'll try to have a conversation, nothing. And so let's go for a run. And sure enough, a mile into the run, everything comes pouring out. And so I feel almost like it's a way to feel like you're in a different space and to silence everything else, to exit kind of all the concerns of the outer world, to like be in a way, to open up what's inside. So for me, that's where most of the physical health comes in now, is wanting to access that kind of time with myself, with God, even with other people, as we exercise together.
John, like, I know a little bit about like your story in dealing with like different transitions and around like your ability to even employ your body in some of those ways. Like, so like, it's very interesting to me that you went from swimming and lifting to like be a bro. And then also later in your life, like actively participated in bodybuilding competitions. Like, what was the mental differentiation between those things? Walter, if you want, I think that we might have a picture to screen share here.
Oh, geez.
I don't know that we will, but
the first time that
I did find something on
the first time that photo showed up in a sermon, one of Dave's sermons, I had no idea it was in there. And someone in between service said, it's like, was that picture photoshopped? Or was that real? I had no idea what they were talking about. So interestingly enough, that time, it was a magazine competition. It was Bill Phillips, this guy who does EAS and all this other stuff. Anyway, he was doing this. And so with about 40,000 other people, my wife and I participated. And really what was interesting about it, it was something that I offered to my wife to do together to try to rebuild our marriage.
Oh, it's John the Body Murray.
The idea was, okay, that's enough. The idea was that we could do something together, other than like sit around and talk about our problems and our conflicts. And And in doing that, it was a really important time in our marriage to be focused on a mutual goal and mutual edification. It started out physical edification, but it could move on from there. I feel like in some ways it's a safer place to engage and build each other up, that can lead to other things. So for us, it was not just a part of having healthy bodies, but like a healthy marriage, a healthy relationship.
I definitely like relate to that in my own journey of like, it was always easier growing up to be on teams around like using my body physically, right? Because there's not so much, it's not like a focus on me, it's a focus on how am I using my body to like be a part of the team. And I was like always like naturally fairly athletic. And then I don't know, I think it's I appreciate you like being able to name some of the vulnerable spaces for you, Walt. Like, male body dysmorphia is like a real thing, but it doesn't get talked about that much. And there's lots of conversations about how girls struggle with like body image and things like that. But I think like, yeah, I went in like puberty and stuff like that. I was sort of like, oh, my body is different than it used to be, but I could still like do sports and things like that. But I don't know, after having kids, like I have a weird relationship with my body. Like, um, it's really not as functional as it used to be in some ways. And like, it feels like, I don't know, I can like as I've been thinking this last, couple of days through this like body thing, I feel like I have to get to a place of being able to respect what my body can do. Like, it is really like powerful. I had kids, like that's great. Also, there's part of me that's just like, it's never going to look the way that it used to. Like, it doesn't actually matter how well I eat, how much CrossFit I do, like the stupid abdominal separation that happens, like, is only repairable through surgery. And like, so that sort of thing is like, okay, how do you start to like value it? And I think when I am able to like be in a healthy space of recognizing that my body actually does communicate something about what God is like, how God has wired me, like, then I can actually respect that piece. I definitely feel things first. Both of you have been on the receiving end of my phone calls where I'm just like, I have all these feelings. And John and I have run together where it's like, I am so angry. And really, like, I'm not, like, once I can like sort of work it out, like I feel my shoulders drop, like I feel like my breath can get easier, I feel like I can access the underneath of whatever I'm actually on the surface holding in my body, to say like, oh, this is actually a place of like deep sadness or a place of fear. But the way that my body sort of has protected me is to allow it to live in like tension and anger and like the desire to fight. Which yeah, it's been an interesting path to like that healthy relationship to my body of like, hey, this is a good signal. I like that language, John, of like window that like something is off here. And so how are you going to process that with people who can like be healthy with you, or lead you to that, or with God by yourself. For me, if I can't access other people, I'm just like not, it's not as helpful for me. Even if I took like a silent weekend and I was just like journal, 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 journal. And then I got back and I was like, now I have to verbally process all of this with everybody. Like, so I don't know. It is what it is. But I think that that's because the part of how like my body is, and I don't think that our relationship with our bodies like ever finish working out. But as Christians, I do think um, we've been taught, like at least in this cultural moment, we've been raised through certain perspectives of our body that impact how much we're willing to trust them or not as like conduits to God. Um, how much do you guys think our theology, our like knowledge, the way that we know God, has played out into this like distrust of our bodies?
I think becoming a Christian fundamentally changed my attitude toward my body. I would think prior to being a believer, I thought of myself as I'm a self that has a body. And so my body is instrumental. My body is used to get things, to move me places, but it is not me. But the more I studied theology, the more I realized that the image of who we are in the Bible is not this physical and spiritual dualism, that the two are separate. Instead, the term they used was we're a psychosomatic unity, that we're held together. We're a mind and body that's held together as one. And the importance of the physical resurrection, like I'd come into the faith kind of thinking that you die and you go to heaven, some ethereal place, rather than the image and revelation of heaven descending to earth. We're in heaven because heaven comes here, and we are still physical creatures. These bodies will rise again. And so the more I began thinking about myself as a body rather than having a body, it made me treat my body fundamentally differently. It wasn't an instrument as much as it was taking care of myself literally, not just, something to get what I wanted or something that I could discard or use in some way. It is me. It is who I am.
Mm.
Yeah, a line that's been similarly like really helpful for me as I've been growing just in my own spiritual life and maturity. A pastor named Pete Scazzaro said that the body is a major prophet, not a minor prophet, and that like our body really is, to the points we were making earlier, like telling us something about how we're experiencing the world and how we're experiencing God. That's like really good. I think often like it's kind of message like don't trust your feelings, or like even kind of like our cultural kind of mandate, like push through fatigue, push through stress, like just kind of keep going, like faster, harder. And so we kind of ignore all these like signals that our body is giving us, that God has designed our bodies to do as whole people. And we kind of ignore them to like our peril. And I think, next week we'll talk about, rest, and there's like so much that could be said about that. But that's this idea that is like, as whole people, that God has made us, that there's something just good and worth paying attention to about our bodies. And I think the more that I try to become like in touch with my body, either by using like spaces like working out or running as a place to kind of like, okay, just try to get in touch with my feelings, or like listening to my body, like, okay, wow, I feel like I'm really like stressed. Like, why is that? Like, what was it about that conversation that kind of brought out, this feeling in me? Like, that helps me, like my mind kind of like catch up, and my soul to catch up, so that I can say, oh, like when this person said X, like it actually made me feel this way. And so I want to wrestle with that with God, and then perhaps go wrestle with that with them. And so it's like improved my relationship. And I think I was also like really struck by just some of the threads I've heard where kind of like competitive aspects of bodily image, whether it be kind of like bullying or comparison or whatever, like completely like negative. And so I feel like I've been in a lot of settings where like that has been talked about and kind of like denounced. And yet what's also coming out is the way that like when we are kind of in community doing bodily things, that creates like pathways to flourishing and to relationship. Whether Meghan and I know like we love our gym communities because we're like working out together and throwing down, and then like afterwards we're catching our breath and like we talk and enjoy that. And John, you're saying about how you're on walks with your son, or runs with your son, or you and Amy were able to get into lifting, and that created like pathways for like intimacy and connectedness. I feel like so often it's like, okay, well, if you want to be like connected with somebody, like sit down over a cup of coffee, or be in like a prayer group. And I'm like, yeah, those are great. Like I love all those spaces. But there's also something really significant about doing something kind of embodied, whether it be, it doesn't have to be like strenuous physical activity, but something physical helps connect us. And I think that's really significant in terms of how God is using our bodies to bring about kind of this vision, right, for relationship and hope.
I think it's one of the biggest losses and stresses during this time of pandemic, the kind of physical disconnectedness we have from each other.
Yeah.
I appreciate that there are technologies like Zoom that can connect us, and this is wonderful. But at the same time, it just highlights to me so much more how much I want to be with people and do things with people.
I just saw like Ku, our worship leader, kind of like in 3D yesterday. We happened to like just be crossing paths in the church parking lot, and like I hadn't seen him like in person since March, and we were just like standing there, just like kind of like smiling and like air hugging for like 5 minutes, because I was like, I just want to give this man like whatever 6 months worth of hugs that I haven't been able to give. And like I miss that. Like just being able to, you know, kind of embrace somebody, or even just be in like a close approximation, because there's something just really good about that we've lost.
And it's getting colder. I mean, it has been exceedingly warm these past couple of days, which has been nice to get outside with people, but it's about to get a lot colder and a little bit more difficult for people to continue to gather.
I don't know. There's like the Swedish proverb of there's no bad weather, there's just bad clothing. Like we can,
want to join me on a winter hike? I'll gladly take you.
It'll probably be safer if we hug through
you.
like 5 layers of snowsuits and stuff. So.
One of the things that I've actually appreciated in this time was like in the beginning of the pandemic, I really just tried to listen to a lot of people that had physical disabilities, because in some ways, like they've been isolated and their bodies in their outward appearance have like caused other people to be isolated from them for their whole lives. And so like learning from some of those people about how they still love their bodies, not as a means of productivity or like you were saying, John, like a tool to get things done, but just like this is the space that they inhabit and they meet God. And also like, I don't know, like if you're in a wheelchair, like people are more likely, even pre-pandemic, to just like kind of keep their distance from you. And so like, what does it mean to have like real connection, real relationship with the bodies that we have? So I don't know if people are struggling with that during this season. There are some disabled voices that have been really helpful to me in terms of like being able to celebrate the parts of like the embodied experience that are less like in the forefront of how we can connect. And even like, sorry, my garbage is getting picked up right now if that's coming through. But like the way that my son, and maybe John, like is, I don't know how that is for you, like from what I've seen, Eliza's like super strong, but like my son is, you know, he's got like 30% less muscle tone than a typical person. But this weekend, there was the first person with Down syndrome to ever become an Ironman. Like, it was like, I'm just like sitting here blubbering while this man is crossing the finish line. And just the remarkable ways that we can see value in every individual body's ability to like be excellent. I don't know. That's something I'm trying to like focus on more.
Yeah, I mean, an Ironman, like for people who don't realize, like that's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 miles biking, and a 26.2 mile run. That's a pretty incredible achievement for anybody, let alone someone who has to overcome other obstacles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty impressive. But I don't know, we'd like to invite you all to use your bodies and invite other people into that with you through a couple of opportunities coming up. So we are still doing Healthy Together steps throughout the next couple of weeks. This week's challenges, if you will, involve things like drink more water. I know Justin Choi was sharing yesterday, like, this is so hard. I don't know how to get this many glasses of water. I don't know. Just like
I did it all right before bed, and it was a mistake.
Oh, sorry.
Spread it out.
Yes. Spread out your water intake. Do not flush your system all at once with an entire day. But like, go on a walk. Like, this is something that's actually still accessible to us right now. And even in the winter, like John said, like you can call someone and go on a socially distanced walk to connect with someone else. If you're feeling like emotionally, spiritually lonely, it'd be a great way for you to engage your body. I don't know. And sign up for the Jog for Joy if you haven't yet. Go to highrockonline.org/healthy together. And there's a link right there for the Jog for Joy. I don't know, John, you were there last year for the Jog for Joy.
Yeah, actually I was part of the medical team, so I didn't get to participate a lot with what was going on outside. So I don't know if I have the best perspective.
Well, it was awesome.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, the Jog for Joy is High Rock's big effort this winter to try to help support the mental health of teenagers in the greater Boston area, as well as nationally, through a couple of local organizations and one national organization. So we are running a 5K together from wherever you are. But this would be a great way to connect with people on your block or who are part of your gym, or like anyone that you miss seeing, like ask them to sign up and do the Jog for Joy with you. You can walk it, you can run it. I've seen a couple of families with young kids say that they're going to spread it out over the course of a couple of days to just, plan on doing 1 kilometer walk every day, and over 5 days, that'll add up. So there are so many ways to break it down. We'd love to have you participate in that with us. And this Friday, we are hosting Kathy Kong, who is an amazing woman who's doing a lot of work on the links between embodied health, mental health, and the intersection of race and all of that. So she's going to be leading a yoga class. The class is free, but you can have a $5 donation that'll go towards supporting a class she offers every week for Black, Indigenous women of color. So we're excited about that. All those links are on our website. And maybe we'll post, John's glamour shot up there too, if that's like the incentive.
We asked our 3-year-old daughter if she wanted to do some yoga on Friday night, and she was like, yes. So
hey, you also bought your daughter a barbell for her birthday. So
it was a toy barbell, and she loves it. She's very into it.
And my daughter really, who's 18, really likes lifting now. So that's been good. She's been getting me in shape.
Awesome.
That's right. We're going to come out of this pandemic stronger for it.
In some ways,
In some ways.
just saying. When John's like, I gained 30 pounds freshman year, I was like, yeah, me too. Not muscle though, I'll tell you what. And that's okay. Like part of that might just be being healthy and being okay with our bodies as it is. That could also be a healthy step coming out of this.
That's right.
John, as always, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. You're the smartest, most interesting man that I know. So, great to have you on here. Friends at home, thanks for watching with us. Walter, till next time.
Till next time.
We'll see you here same time next week as we talk about what it means to have healthy resting bodies. Okay, bye.